Well, hey there. It's your old pal Keith from wavetables.lol. That's wavetables.lol. Home of KRC Mathwaves, the world's largest collection of wavetables, single-cycle waveforms, and even some samples for all sorts of modern synthesizers, including our new friend, Korg Multipoly and Korg Multipoly Native here. I have a new thing to talk about today. Hot on the heels of KRC Orchestral Impressions. It's a set of patches. Because people, as they've been watching my, I guess it's now 4-part series, make this part 5, I suppose, a 5-part series about Korg Multipoly, people have been asking about certain patches that I've demoed because I really haven't played much of the factory sound set. Instead, going through and illustrating the different capabilities of this amazingly fun synthesizer with my own patches. Because, of course, I make my own wavetables. I've got, more than, well, now it's more than 200,000 wavetables, I guess, across both Mathwaves and Orchestral Impressions. And then I'm very much into discovering new, interesting synthesis techniques and exploring things like the very compelling wave shaping oscillator in Multipoly. And so people have been like, oh, I really like that patch at, timestamp 1250, whatever. So I have a new collection of Multipoly patches, which you can get at wavetables.lol. It's called KRC Collection 1. I know, not the most creative name, but it's my first collection of Multipoly patches, and it contains most, if not all actually, some of them I didn't think were quite worthy of including, but it includes most of the patches that I've demoed across this series of videos about Multipoly, and then a couple of new things as well. And I'd been hesitant actually to release some patches because sometimes I feel like they need to be like really, really, really zhuzhed up, just like the factory content, like they should have mod knob assignments and chaos pad assignments, and not all of these do. I'm just going to warn you, they're more about textures and timbres and exploring some of the unique and different things that we can do with Multipoly. This first set of 90 performances, the 105 layers, the programs that the performances are composed of, and also 104 custom wavetables that come from Mathwaves and Orchestral Impressions. I don't know, I started the intro to that sentence so long ago that I don't know what the thought was, but I just wanted to tell you how many things there were. 90 patches, 105 programs, 104 custom wavetables. And what I'm going to do is just go through and talk about some of these. I will, in the future, I'm sure, do a no talking version of this. But you've heard these patches before if you've watched my channel. So this collection is just $5. I had thought of adding it to KRC Mathwaves itself, but then there's sort of a gate there, right? Because Mathwaves is $29. It's often on special, but it's fairly high priced, compared to a cheap little $5 product. And then also, I'm out of space. Gumroad allows you to create products that have many, many gigabytes of content, but after I added the wavetables for Faceplant, I ultimately ran out of space, and so I do have the entire KRC Mathwaves collection converted to Faceplant format, but there's no more room for it. So I'm still figuring out what to do there. I think I have to split off the Faceplant wavetables into their own little product, and then maybe when you buy Mathwaves, you can just add it for $1 or something. As like a premium. It's like, hey, if you want the big giant 256 frame wavetables, you're just going to buy this separate product. For existing users of Mathwaves, what I'll probably do is just do a coupon code that's 100% off so you can go get them. Anyway, I haven't split that off yet, but I'm going to. So anyway, KRC Collection 1 patches for Korg Multipoly and Multipoly Native needs to be its own thing. Hey, talkie, like and subscribe for more talkie synthesizer content. With that, I'm going to take a short break, and then we will get into some of the cool patches that are in KRC Collection 1. So, we're talking about multi-poly patches in KRC Collection 1. So here's one that's in the collection. We've already covered it. This is called Not Defunk because it's reminiscent of, you know, that sound from Defunk. But I think the lead in Defunk maybe has a fourth in it or something. It's sort of a chord, I think. Anyway, I didn't want to emulate this exact sound, but it's reminiscent of that. The other thing that's sort of interesting about this patch real quick is that, you know, that sound... Whoa. I'm jittery today. I'm just jittery. Calm the F down, Keith. By the way, the links in the description to all the stuff I'm talking about, so you can go get KRC Collection 1. Or all the other stuff. I'm sure I'll make you an offer when you're there, when you add it to your cart, because I'm just like that. I'll be like, would you like the other things? And, you know, maybe you'll be like, I would like the other things. But anyway, the defunk sound is a sync sound, clearly. But I'm not doing that with the sync function here in multipoly. What I'm using is one of the 104 wavetables that come with this set of patches. This is one of the basic mix wavetables. Did I call this a patch before? This is a wavetable. The basic mix wavetables are interesting in that they have a sync-like sound, and they were made by taking the basic synthesizer waveforms and putting them together inside of a wavetable frame, so that they're always shifting their percentage of the frame that they take up. And this, to me, has a very pleasant sync-like sound. Sometimes I find oscillator sync to be a little bit extreme. And you'll forgive me, again, this is not a no-talking video. I'm just going to talk through some of the rationale for these patches and, you know, show you how you might use them in your own programming or build on them, etc., right? So this is one of the many wavetables that you will find inside of the collection. When you import the KRC Collection 1 into your multipoly hardware or multipoly native, everything is tagged as KRC Collection 1 so that you can differentiate it from all of my other wavetables, should you have them, and other junk that might be stuff that might be in your multipoly already. Everything, the performances, the programs, and the wavetables are tagged as KRC Collection 1. And so if you click into a wavetable oscillator, you'll see that here are the, we're filtering by KRC Collection 1. Here are the 104 wavetables. There's all sorts of different types from across my collection, and some new ones as well. And I'm hoping that they'll make you want the entire KRC Mathwaves and or KRC Orchestral Impressions wavetable collections. But, you know, if you don't want those, you're more of like a preset person, just have these presets, have these 104 wavetables. Okay, let's see here. I think maybe we should start with some greatest hits, because I know there were folks that had requested certain patches that I played. I think here is one, Andromeda Shaper Duo, that a lot of people responded to. There's a lot of pads in this collection. This is very pad-like. It's very analog-y, and the reason it's called Andromeda is that it reminds me of my old Luscious Andromeda synth. Many of the sounds that you can make with Korg Multipoly are very similar to the sounds that come out of that synth, which is, you know, surprising because that's a very expensive and hard to get analog synthesizer, and Multipoly is a very affordable digital synthesizer, but I feel like they sound very, very similar. This is a very pleasing sound. It's nice and fizzy because it uses that SEM filter. And it has a lot of drive in the low end. And of course it's called Shaper because it uses the Waveshaper oscillators. 2-layer patch. Every single performance has its layers saved as a program, so that you could go in and construct your own patches that are combinations of the different programs. And, you know, we'll show that a little bit in this video for sure. But there you go, Andromeda Shaper. Another of the 90 patches that caught people's ears was a very simple patch. It's called Weird Shaper 3. I didn't change the name of it. When I was creating this patch, I was sort of thinking about like soundtrack music. And in my mind, I was like, let's create an instrument that we could use in our imaginary score for Dune. So what's going on in this patch is we're using a single oscillator, Waveshaper oscillator, that is being modulated. Its pulse width is being modulated by an LFO. And that LFO speeds up with velocity. So if you play lightly, we get this very slow motion to it. If we play harder, it goes faster. And so it's kind of an interesting way to play with the patch. The other thing that's going on is there's that breathy noise that's in it that sort of makes it sound a little like a Rompler patch or something, or like a flute sample or some sort of woodwind sample. But that noise is coming from audio rate modulation on the filter. That's a mix of the oscillator and the noise generator in multi-poly. It's a very interesting effect. So, if you've been wanting Weird Shaper 3, here it is. It is amazing how in a synthesizer like this, even a simple patch like this can be very, very evocative. So that's Weird Shaper. Let's see, what were some of the other things that people really enjoyed? Well, in my last video, Ian Dixon and I think another person mentioned that they liked this violin patch. So this is like a string orchestra sort of patch. I mean, let's not resolve that chord, huh? So this is a mix of 2 layers. Layer A is using wavetables from my KRC Orchestral Impressions wavetable collection that just came out, I don't know, but less than 2 weeks ago. And these wavetables were actually extracted from samples of symphonic acoustic instruments. And so we've got a spiccato violin and an arco vibrato violin articulation here as wavetables. And so layer A is kind of a surreal, I mean, it's realistic, but it's not exactly sampley sounding because there is a filter on it. But it's very sweet sounding, and you can sort of hear the rosin in the bows. And unlike a sample, you know, these wavetables play perfectly up and down the keyboard, so that there's no discernible, like, multi-sample split points, right? And there's no discernible loop points that just makes the sound. So it plays really low, or it plays really high. So that's one layer of it. And then on the B layer, there's just a detuned saw kind of patch. So, you know, synth strings, really. With an exaggerated resonance. And we're using the mini mode filter here. And then together, it's really pretty, and I can see why people like that. That is in here. Another thing I might want to point out at this point, a lot of these programs and performances you can use as a nip patches if you want to do patches like this, right? So there are a lot of little setup things that I do in these patches that you don't always find other people do in their patches. Like, my patches almost always respond to velocity to amplifier, so that, you know, they're not always played at maximum volume, so there's always modulation set up for, like, velocity to amp. Let's see, what were some of the other ones that people liked? Well, there was a pretty good response, I think, to what's it called? I know one thing that people liked a lot was the thing that I played Sweet Dreams on. Where is that Sweet Dreams patch? Where'd you go? Where'd my Sweet Dreams impression go? Oh, here we go. Yeah, oh, it's PWM two ways, of course. If you've watched my videos before, I have many times explained that there are two different ways to make PWM, and in multi-poly, we can do them in the same patch. So we can do huge PWM-y stuff like this. You try saying PWM-y. It's hard. So that's a classic. Done entirely, I think, with the built-in oscillators. Yeah, it's just the VA oscillators. There's two versions of this, by the way. There's the PWM two-ways slow and the PWM two-ways standard, which is a little faster. All right, so those guys are in here. There's a couple of things that we haven't heard before. Oh, wait. There's one we've heard before that we want to get to. Somebody else commented that they really liked the patch I opened my review of Multipoly Native with, and that's called Hail. Hail to the MP Vox. So this patch uses some wavetables that come from Rompler samples that are of various vocals, right? It's like choir samples, common thing you find in old school Romplers, where I ran my timbral extraction script on them. So there's a few of these in here that I've added. Again, they're part of the custom wavetables that come with this collection. So that's in here. You know, again, and these Rompler Vox wavetables haven't appeared in any of my previous collections. I'm itchy. What the heck? That always happens, doesn't it? This patch is nicely velocity sensitive. It's also, it employs a trick that I use a lot. So you'll note that panning for each voice is controlled by note number. So in this way, so we've got our pan control here under amp and drive. That's usually hidden, by the way. Just click here and then you get to the amp and drive section. That's where pan is for the voice panning. And I just modulate it with note number. So it's kind of like I do this for patches that are pianos or other keyboard instruments where we're kind of sitting in the player position and then higher up notes are off to our right and lower notes are off to our left. And that just creates a nice stereo spread in addition to anything else that you might be doing with your effects and stuff, right? So low on the keyboard, it's over here. And then high on the keyboard, it's over here. I wonder if I'm doing that right based on how my camera is. I don't know if my image is reversed today or not. So if I'm pointing in the wrong direction, it doesn't mean I don't know left from right, but it might. Okay, Hail to the MP Vox is in here. At this point, what I want to do is let's just maybe run through several more of the patches. We'll show some different ways they can be used. I do want to say that these patches are very much my style. There's a lot of pad-like stuff here. You know, this is just the stuff that I naturally did in my first few months exploring multi-poly and the kinds of patches that I put together to demo the synth. So if you like what you've heard from my previous videos, you're going to like them. If you're expecting a lot of like wub steppy growly stuff, that's not in here. But there's plenty of other interesting stuff to listen to and to use as building blocks. And like I was saying earlier, a lot of these patches and so the performances and the programs could be used as init patches to get you closer to a certain type of sound that you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to take a short break and then we will do some more going through KRC Collection 1 for multi-poly. This little patch, KRC WS Offset. WS in all these, there's a lot of Waveshaper patches. WS means Waveshaper. This is just one where I was exploring changing the offset with an LFO. There's a little mod processor thing going on here where I've got the PWM LFO set to a square wave. It is tempo synced, but then in our mod processor 1, we're smoothing that a little bit and applying that to the offset of these two oscillators. This is about as close as you're going to get in this collection to things that use the sequencer, right? Like I haven't really done much exploration because I've done it in wave state and mod wave with the modulation sequencer, and I just find like the basic sound of Korg multipoly to be so satisfying that I hardly ever get into like wacky self-playing patches. So you won't find a bunch of stuff like that. Occasionally there'll be a patch like this where we've got a synced LFO kind of trick going on. But just so you know, similarly, there are some ARPs. Let's get back into synthesis mode, shall we? The very simple patch here with one oscillator. Again, it's a Waveshaper. It's using the Star Waveshaper. And this arpeggiator is latched. So, you know, if you didn't want that to continue forever and ever, you could just go in and switch off latch mode. It could be fun to play around with different arpeggiator modes. And it can just be, very satisfying to just mess around with patches like that for a long time. Another thing is, once you've got these Waveshaper type patches, it's really easy just to go in and, change the shaper that's being used. You can get very different timbres. It's sort of quacky. It's like a duck. It's almost speaking. Okay, you get the idea with that. There's a little arpeggiated patch. Oh, a new thing that I built. I hadn't showed this off yet. Pretty convincing piano. So this is using, actually 3 layers make up this sound. I think I showed, yeah, I did show, in my original look at KRC Orchestral Impressions. I did a lot of stuff there with like morphing in the wavetable oscillators in ModWave using the AB mode to like, in a phased lock way, like move between a lower energy wavetable and a higher one, and then they either change that over the course of the keyboard or use velocity there. In multipoly, we don't have the AB mode, but we can use layers to get a very similar effect. So this is a 3-layer patch, and you can hear it's very responsive to velocity. So what we're doing is layer A is the low energy layer. So it's the low velocity one. It'll fade out the harder I play. That's set up over here, by the way, if you're interested in how that works. So layer A, C fades out with higher velocities. Layer B fades in with higher velocities. And it sounds like this. So it's very aggressive, very nasal. It's hitting the piano keys as hard as possible. And then, with both layers active, we get like just a really nice velocity sensitive piano effect. There's one more trick here. There's a 3rd layer that has this program that I call CP-70 Deep. Oh, this piano sounds to me like the Yamaha CP-70. Which is like it's an electric grand. You hear on a lot of yacht rock and a lot of 70s rock, softer rock. So this 3rd layer is velocity sensitive, but it's mixed very low, and it's kind of a medium wavetable, and it's very detuned. So in setup, oops, where is it? Layer C, get back here. It's set up in the layer. It's got unison turned on. There's 2 voices. They're made fully stereo, and then there's a detune of 29 on them. And so you hear, but I have to really spank the keys to hear it. And just that little bit of this mixed in with the other 2 layers like creates a nice deep sound. This is also this wavetable, the oscillator here, it's tuned down 2 octaves, so it's an octave lower than the other wavetables. Very nice. So hey, look, you got a pretty convincing piano. I guess there's other things I could talk about with this. Again, I'm using the trick in layer A and layer B of panning the voices in the stereo spread based on note number, so that we kind of have a seated position. High notes are over here, low notes are over here. It's a very satisfying kind of thing. And of course, there's plenty of velocity to amp on this. I don't think that there's no other real velocity stuff going on with this. Anyway, that's kind of fun. And these are like brand new wavetables that will be coming to KRC Orchestral Impressions. These are using version 27 of my timbral extraction technique, which does a much better job. on piano samples, which are pretty tough to convert to wavetables. But I thought this was pretty satisfying. All right, more stuff. So that's exclusive to this collection right now. There's a lot of other things I showed. Oh, note that everything has patch notes. So even though there are typically not KAOSS pad assignments, but there are some special cases, and there's typically not mod knob assignments, there are notes for all of these patches. So it kind of explains like what I was thinking and what I did. This is the add juice patch where I talked about how to make the filters in multi-poly sound a little bit more juicy, maybe a little bit more Roland-y, Jupiter-y, using a trick with wavetables. So we've got a wavetable here where I'm using the tilt up modifier to like greatly increase its brightness. And just this gives us the feel that the filter is actually less effective against the very highest frequencies, and it makes things a little juicy and squirty sounding. What filter are we using here anyway? Yeah, it's the mini low-pass filter. You'll see that if we turned this off, I guess, let's see, let's just switch it off, Keith. Just press the button. Okay, so that's just the detuned saw going through the filter. I mean, it's a great sounding filter. Classic synth patch, right? But when we add this guy back in, let's just listen to him by himself. Oh, there's just a little bit of squirty. And then together. So it just, gives us a different filter flavor. Okay, so that's add juice. We already talked about Andromeda Shaper. Just a reminder what that guy sounds like. Ah, I love it. Such a good patch. There is a variation on that uses, instead of the Waveshaper, it uses some of my custom wavetables. These are zero crossing wavetables. There are thousands of these in the full version of KRC Mathwaves. The idea here was to group waveforms by the number of zero crossings that they have, so we could get more synthy waveforms. A lot of the mathematical waveforms in Mathwaves have a lot of zero crossings, or they have a lot of high frequency content, and I wanted to get a class of waveforms that's more like the classic synthesis waveforms. And so that's what these Z-crossing wavetables do. And that's just a very nice different effect from the Waveshaper version. Boy, I'm never going to make it through all the patches. There's lots of different stuff here. So these basic morph patches, there's a couple of them, have a very, classic glassy wavetable kind of sound to them, because they use these basic morph wavetables that go from kind of the higher energy content to lower energy content, and they just smoothly morph between those two different spectra. And this creates just a really nice sound. There is another one of these. And so, if you wanted to customize these patches a little bit, you could just click into the wavetables and you could pick a different basic morph wavetable. And this will give us like just a different sound. We might adjust the positions as well. Lots of neat things you can do there. don't want to be looking at that mod processor still, do I? There are the organs that I played in my initial review of Korg Multipoly. It uses the very convincing rotary speaker effect. And it also gives you this wavetable that just happens to be full of like great waveforms that sound very much like an organ, and can especially sound like an organ if we put the wavetable into organize mode. I think I did that one here. Yeah, so this is the same wavetable. We selected a different waveform though, and then we've got the mod called organize, which just limits the harmonics to the drawbars on an organ. Very convincing. Take me out to the ball game. So you get those. There's all sorts of patches that explore the combination of two different types of wavetables. So in this one, we've got a BrightSort wavetable. The BrightSort wavetables are a collection of wavetables that are from the training data set that I used to train my variational autoencoders. There's like 8.5 million waveforms in that training set. Taking like a random sampling of those and then sorting them by their spectral brightness. And so there's all sorts of different waveforms in here. And so these BrightSort 64 wavetables that you get and these Melsort 64 wavetables that you get, they have a zillion different types of wavetables of different complexities in them. They tend to be simpler down at the bottom, and they're more complex up at the top. And so you can customize these patches like all day long, and finding different timbres in here. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. I've also got some variations on this that we'll get to that use the KAOSS pad to, instead of you having to adjust the sliders here, you can just tap all over the KAOSS pad and get completely different timbres. Those are pretty fun. Anyway, here's another variation on this patch. It's got more variability on the mod wheel. So playing the mod wheel like brings in some morphing on the wavetables. I guess it's just pitch, really. OS2 is staying constant, but oscillators 1 and 3 are getting some vibrato. Again, very interesting little patches that are easy to customize. You can just kind of dial up different waveforms here and get all sorts of different flavors. Pretty cool stuff. I like my wavetables. Here are the patches I was talking about. So here's one with a slow attack. And what? The multi-poly filter, the mono-poly filter. But there's a neat modulation on these with the KAOSS pad. As I tap the KAOSS pad, or if you modulate it with some other MIDI CCs that you assign to be the equivalent of your KAOSS pad, you can dial in different timbres just by tapping. So these are very versatile patches. Here's another one. And you could also just trade these out, right, for any of the other sort, or actually even any of the Z-Cross wavetables. So I'm filtering again on KRC Collection 1, so I'm not cheating. I'm not using the entire KRC Mathwaves collection. I'm just picking different wavetables that come with KRC Collection 1. Kind of fun stuff you can do there. That's pretty. And then here's a variation where I've got crossfade width. That's this parameter here that controls whether we snap to the wavetable or whether we let it morph. This has got crossfade width all the way up. So you can get kind of smoother morphs as you tap around or drag around the KAOSS pad. A lot of great stuff there. Waveshaper used to make a clavinet type sound. A very synthy clavinet, really. Oh, go away, Google Drive. I know. Here's a variation on that using different wavetables. And again, so this one's all about the effects, right? So we've got an auto wah going on, kind of and then a nice appropriate small reverb on this. Very convincing, actually, clavinet sort of effect. Pretty fun. Let's see here. Oh, in the intro to some of my no talking music videos, I've used this sound, Electric Cocoon. So this is a Waveshaper patch that uses some sample and hold style LFOs. You can see it down here in the PWM LFO that we are modulating the pulse width with that guy pretty clearly. Yep. And then offset is also being modulated by the amp LFO, and so this just gives us a whole lot of variation in this Cocoon Waveshaper that just sounds like electricity to me. It's evocative of electricity anyway. And it gets very interesting in the very low octaves because we start to hear these little tiny wibbles in here. Like as the frequency goes lower, we can actually hear those as distinct pitches. So it's a pretty wild patch. That reminds me of kind of early 1950s electronic music, right? Made with all sorts of weird devices. One thing that's pretty fun that I've included here, go to select, Keith. This is an art patch. But I've included the logarithmic, exponential, and polynomial saws wavetables from KRC Mathwaves that are just different shapes of the sawtooth wave. So, the sawtooth wave has kind of a linear ramp. We can imagine sawtooth waves that have like, logarithmic kind of ramps or exponential ramps or S-shaped ramps. And these waveforms sound a lot like the sawtooth wave, but they're just a nice alternative to the perfect sawtooth wave. And they sound good mixed with each other, and they sound good mixed with the classic VA saws or PWM, things like that. There's several variations here. This version labeled Max was my experiment in what happens when we actually use all 16 oscillators, right? So there's 4 layers here. Every single oscillator slot is used. A few of them actually have unison on them. So there's actually more than 16 oscillators per key going on here. And it sounds like this. Yow! Oh! And it cut out a little bit. I may be asking a little too much of my machine while I'm playing this and also running OBS, right? But if you ever wondered, what does it sound like? What does a 16 oscillator plus patch sound like in multipoly? Well, that's it. We've also got a more normal version of that where we've just got 4 oscillators. And it's all the different types. So we got the logarithmic saw, the exponential saw, the poly saws, and then a shark fin waveform that's very close to being a saw. Okay. What else here? Other things I showed in my tour of multipoly. This patch that has this nice little bit of fizz on top, right? There it is. Courtesy of the SEMP filters crossfade mode. Very nice patch there. Also, this is the patch that opened my original review of the multipoly. It's a fractional bell. This uses my polygonal series wavetables, and I've included several variations of the polygonal series type wavetables so that you can do these bell-like sounds. Now this is one of those patches actually that's a little bit like an init patch. You can just kind of go in and we could grab any random wavetables here and make a different sound, and almost anything's going to work pretty well. Look at that, you're a synth programmer. And we've got little buttons here. We could move to the next wavetable. Ooh, that's cool. So, in some ways, a lot of these patches are like granimals. You can mix and match, and we could mix and match with layers too, right? So, we're only using layer A here. If we grab layer B, we could go in, right, turn it on, and we could grab one of the programs from KRC Collection 1. Like, what would be a good? Let's see. What does this sound like? Let's see. That might sound good. I mean, we could throw one of the piano things in there. That's kind of neat. All sorts of things you can do. You can just scroll through the different programs if you want. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, you get the idea. You can build layers. Let's see, we already looked at this guy, didn't we? Nice vocal patch. Let's see. Icicles Form. This is another bell-like patch that uses the polygonal series waveforms. There's also a little bit of a detuned saw pad going on in the bottom of it. Fat fingers. Pretty neat stuff. I love sounds like that. There it is. There are some keyboard type sounds in addition to the piano I showed earlier. What else? What's next? Bouncy analog stuff. It's legato. Little thing for our friend Mark from South Shore Sonics, who does all these weird patches with morlets. I did a whole collection of morlets. So here's a vocally sound, kind of synthy vocally, created by the unusual wavetables of the Morley wavelet. That's kind of neat. We already did Not Defunct, didn't we? Let's see. We did the Orchestral Violins. We did the PWM2As. This is a nice one. I think this is the very first patch I did when I got multi-poly. And I got my own wavetables loaded up into it. It's just a really nice, luscious pad sound that uses some shark fin waveforms and Bezier wavetables. They're in oscillator 3. And there's 2 layers of this. The other thing that's going on is this is using the Odyssey model for the amp, and I think most of the envelopes. There's also a looping envelope in here. Just a really pretty, like, deep and luscious pad sound there, right? Stereo Shaper from my original overview. 2 different filters, panned left and right. And of course, you know, again, you could just, like, you could pick out different Waveshapers to get very different sounds. Oop, let's go back here. That looked cool. Whoa. All right, that's there. Oh, here's a new one. I don't think I've showed this. I call this Swim with Sharks because it's all based on the shark fin waveform. So that's a waveform that's in the virtual analog oscillators that comes from the Minimoog. But then I also have my own collection of waveforms that I call sharks. And so I just thought it'd be fun to build a patch that's almost all sharks, right? Kind of a nice alternative to sawtooth waves, I think. There's a version where, of course, I added a bell layer. one thing you might have detected in that bell layer is there's a delay, actually. These two wavetables trigger at different times. There's a delay on one of the envelopes that's controlling the amp here of oscillator 2. If we look at filter B envelope, we'll see there's a little delay. It's 0.05 seconds. And so it triggers after the first one. It gives kind of a nice little music boxy sound, and then together. Am I going to talk about every single dingle one of these patches? I don't know, maybe. I'm going to stop talking a little bit and just kind of play through some more. So these vintagey patches right here are using one of my microwaved wavetables. So this is where I greatly decimated a 32-bit wavetable to make it sound like basically like the types of waveforms that are in the Waldorf microwave. These only have like 8 bits of depth, and they're very jaggy and low res. And then if we use the vintage 8 or vintage 12 mode on this, and I'm also doing it with this other wavetable on oscillator 1, we get a really exaggerated aliasing sound. You can especially hear it on notes like F. Nice 8-bit aliasing. There's another variation on that here. Okay, moving on. Oh, wavetable strum. So, one of the things I did in the original review of Multipoly is I was excited about the different layers and the fact that there is delay on the envelopes now, so we can do strums. So this is a patch that has this sort of fantasy stringed instrument on it if I play low velocity, but if I play high velocity, we get a whole strum of a chord. Enough said about that. It's beautiful. Here's Waveshaper again. All right. Always back to Waveshaper. Oh, here's a new one. I haven't actually showed this one. So a really interesting guitar sound from just one oscillator. This sound was inspired by, there's that scene in Purple Rain where Prince listens to the cassette tape from Wendy and Lisa, and that arpeggio that's going on there. Wait, how's that go? Like Wendy's playing that, and it sounds exactly like this. It's like this very thin and effecty, like guitar sound. And then, he looks like a super genius, for writing the chords out when the chords are completely dictated by this. That's what this patch is inspired by. But this sound can give you a lot of like Roxy Music kind of tones, or even lower registers. It sort of reminds me of the Cult, or like Cocteau Twins guitar sounds. I spent a lot of time on this one. It's very cool. Examine the effects and stuff to see how that works. A very convincing effect there. Okay, there's a whole bunch of Waveshaper patches. These just kind of go through almost all of the different Waveshapers. So they're like a great starting place to like modify to maybe get some of your own sounds. You know, so I run through almost all of them, but then I got tired of building patches. They're, you know, they're just very interesting. And some of them have filters, some of them don't. There's some special ones. Wait, where's the pad? Hold on. There we go. This one's great. WS3 Sine pad uses the chord mode. To make this really beautiful sound. So that one's quite nice to have. Let's see, what else is going on here? I don't want to discount anything that's in here. I mean, there's a lot of great little synthy sounds in here, but I just don't want to talk about every single thing at once. Really cool wave folding kind of effect on some of these. And so, of course, in addition to the Waveshaper, I have my own wave-folded sine wavetable. So I added that to this collection so you could compare and contrast the two approaches to doing wave folding. There's this one. I had talked about in a previous video about these pickup shapers and that they're for basically modeling electric piano type sounds. And they can be fairly successful, so there's that. This is an interesting sound. So it's got this little pitch sweep that goes up. That's actually the filter self-resonating. It's the Minimoog style ladder filter. It's being swept up, the cutoff, and it has high resonance. So there's just this weird little whoop that happens in the background. It's a pretty cool patch. So this Waveshaper, the additive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the right settings like these, makes a formanty sound. And you can dial in a little bit of different stuff. You can kind of create some different formats. It's a little fiddly. But that was an interesting discovery. So that patch is here. I haven't done much with the Waveshaper, sorry, with the cross mod, but this is an FM type of cross mod patch. All right, so you got one of those. I really like this patch. The way these wibbles move in the resonant Waveshaper is very cool. Kind of interesting and mysterious. Oh boy, what else we got? A very, very swimmy saw patch here. Are they drunk? I don't know. So this is kind of like a plucked or a spiccato played string. Lots of interesting things you can get out of the Waveshaper. This was a happy discovery. Alrighty. Smooth Calibrator. See what I did there? Is an experiment in how far can we push the drift and voice variation. And so OSS drift and all of the variation parameters are all the way up. And it's actually a super pleasing sound, programmed the right way. I mean, it doesn't sound broken. It just sounds very swimmy and rich. And then the pad version of it, I think, is even more fun. I'm making calibration face, I know. Nifty. The unique sound of the split wavetables. I included a couple of my split wavetables in here. This is when we take different basic wave shapes and split them apart over the course of the wavetable and just see what happens. It's almost like its own little type of synthesis. Makes for some neat tones. Here's another electric piano type patch. Using the Waveshapers. Lots of Waveshaper stuff here. Oh, this is pretty cool. So, you know, I talked about, right, like logarithmic and polygonal and exponential shaped saws. Well, it turns out that the hyperbolic tangent, the TANH Waveshaper, with the right inputs actually makes sawtooth waves with these different shapes. And then they can even morph a little bit. We're just running a triangle wave into the TANH shaper. And so this is a way of getting other types of sawtooth waves. And they just sound subtly different from the standard VA saw. I mean, it might be nice, right, to like add another layer here. Let's grab like KRC Saw 4. Instant hugosity. I don't think I've shown this patch and its variations in my videos, but this is a Prophet. It uses the Prophet model mostly, and it's very screamy, which I think is cool. And then there's a 5-voice version of it as well, as would befit the Prophet 5. You know, not like that's a real special programming technique. That's just up here. In any layer you can set whether it's dynamic or how many voices you want it to have. We're getting sort of close to the end. I'm going to take a little break and then we'll talk about the last little bits of the collection. Boy, hasn't this been fun listening to all these patches from KRC, what's it called? KRC Collection 1. Great name, Keith. Boy, you're a marketing genius. Wow, you know, time's really getting away from us. Time flies when you're having talkie synthesizer fun now, doesn't it? So let's see what else is interesting in here that I really wanted to talk about. These are kind of fun. Every one of these is kind of fun. So go get KRC Collection 1 patches for multi-poly. You get like about almost 100 patches. You get more than 100 programs, and you get more than 100 wavetables that you may or may not have already. You can see what I did here. In this Z-Cross random wave ring modulator patch, every key press selects a different waveform from the wavetable. So this is kind of inspired by the layer rotate mode in multi-poly, but here's another way of doing it. Inside of a single layer. That's kind of fun. You could combine that with layer rotate and get lots of randomness going on. Another nice little patch there that again is really easy to modify just by picking out different waveforms. Does this have the KAOSS pad set up? Oh, it does. As I tap the KAOSS pad, I can get all sorts of different timbres. That's cool. There's a bunch of Z-Cross Explorer patches that explore the unique sounds that can be found within the zero crossing waveforms. They're all labeled Z-Cross. So there's synthy stuff. Let's see what else is there. This might be a bass. Let's see what else is there. Kind of a keys patch. Synth strings, I guess. For a second there, I thought I didn't have my microphone on. Icy, glassy stuff. Spoopy. That's kind of neat. Okay. There's a lot more here. There's even more Z-crossing variations. I don't need to play through the whole collection. If you like the kind of stuff I do and you enjoy my videos, you'll probably enjoy this if you have Korg Multipoly or Korg Multipoly Native. So, like and subscribe for more talky synthesizer content. Go to wavetables.lol and get KRC Collection 1, which is these patches. When you're there and you add that to your cart, I will probably make you an offer on KRC Orchestral Impressions or KRC Mathwaves if you're really into having a lot of wavetables. And I hope maybe you've seen like why it can be fun to have a whole lot of wavetables, because there's so many different timbral possibilities that we can get to. Anyway, I'm loving Korg Multipoly. I'll definitely be doing more videos about multipoly now that it's native, because it was a real hassle having to have an extra camera on my hardware and stuff like that. So this is a much better way to roll. And with that, have a great day, be a good person, and I will talk to you later.